Hey, everybody, you are listening to the myself, and Tangents podcast. Uh, this is going to be a bit of a late upload, I'm sorry, but I have been a little bit busy, frankly speaking, a little lazy. Yeah, I've also not been feeling the best, to be fully honest, but yeah, I'm going to try to get this episode recorded quickly and post it soon-ish. Yeah, so a little bit of a weekly update for today. Uh, so this week I have been playing in a chess tournament. Um, Actually, quite a few chess related things. But my friend was organizing this chess tournament, and I was helping him out a little bit with it. And then obviously I played in it myself. The result was all right. I got 3.5 points out of 7, so that's like half the number of points you can get, which I think is good. And yeah, and it's kind of played normally. Um, Probably could have done better. I don't really care. Even if I did, or even if I didn't, I still did all right, and I am fine with my result. For a few other things, um, not actually, there's not too much going on. If I'm being fully honest, yeah, I got a pair of shades, so I have a really high degree, so I'm not even really wearing them because they're not prescription sunglasses. But I got a pair of sunglasses, so that's that's the weekly update. Oh boy, I'm a little out of it because I'm not feeling super great either. A bit of a stuffy nose situation. All right, so let me get into today's episode. Today's episode is going to be a straight up book review. That's right. I'm gonna be reviewing The Secret History by Donna Tartt right now because I think it would be a fun thing to do. So very obvious warning, spoilers ahead. Do not watch this video if you are planning on reading the book. But I finished reading it recently, and I've been planning to do this for about a week now. So to be fully honest, this is not the best time to do it, but oh well. I'm going to do it anyway. I've had time to decompress in a sense, and I still remember basically all the book. It's not like I read it and forgot it, but I've had time to decompress, had time to think about it a little bit. I've been thinking about it on my own, um, which I think is so interesting. It's such a good book. For the record, a non-spoiler interview would definitely be like a solid 7 out of 10. A solid, very solid 7 out of 10. Um, it starts pretty slowly, but once you get to the good part, it keeps going, and then before you know it, you're done. I could just sit down and read about 100 pages easily. So that's really how good it is. Yeah. So without further ado, let's go into the spoiler section of the book review. So I will say the first 3 chapters are just straight up slice of life, if I'm being fully honest with you. Obviously, it was around chapter 3 or 4 that Richard discovers, Richard, the main character, discovers that, you know, the rest of the gang have killed a person. But yeah, even then, it's not like hyper interesting yet. But I would definitely say chapter 4 and onwards, they really start to hit the gas. Um, it really picks up steam in chapter 4. Chapter 5, obviously, the crescendo. And then chapter 6 is a pretty like tense chapter. You're like constantly wondering what's gonna happen. Chapter 7, I think, kind of falls back into that really slice of life-ish, um, slightly boring style, but also with that same time, there's some like mild tension, and you can feel it going on, and you're not sure what to make of it. And chapter 8, of course, um, mega spoiler, but yeah, Charles, one of the main characters, straight up shoots everybody. Well, not shoots everybody, but he brings a gun, tries to kill someone, and someone does get killed. Henry, he blows his own brains out. Crazy stuff. But um, yeah. So that's that. Um, and then obviously the epilogue. I have to say the epilogue is one of the best I've ever read. Simply because you don't get this kind of really long, simple, but very much needed kind of wrap, like nice bow tie to like wrap up the story. A lot of times people kind of try to end it quickly and try to wrap it up super quickly without too much thought into what's going to happen. But with The Secret History, one thing I really like is that they took the effort to basically make what is what is the final bow tie, final little ribbon to the whole gift package, to the whole package, which I think is so nice because it helps us understand what's going on. It, a few unnecessary details, but it's also very much um, it's very well written because you feel like oh you understand what's going on now. You'll never like you don't feel lost after the book. You feel very much like oh I can start to like plot and like extrapolate where where the story might go from here in that sense, like what happens to the characters afterwards. So I will begin the the full book review. I have to say, oh my gosh, what is wrong with all the characters? Like straight up, Francis is the most normal dude, and like he's still like really addicted to like smoking or something like that. Maybe that was Charles. I don't know. Yeah, actually no. Yeah, Francis definitely smoked a lot. Um, but I mean, like that's only a bad habit. The rest of them are actually messed up, straight up. Oh, probably Francis and Bunny are the most normal. But yeah, Francis also has issues as a person, but they're not that glaring. But my gosh, what's wrong with the rest of them? So let's start off with like the twins, Charles and Camilla. My gosh, the author Donna Tartt did not need to hit us with that crazy fact that they're probably involved with each other, right? But I mean, to be fair, I guess that sort of does make sense. Um, Henry's just a little messed up. I'm gonna be honest. Like he's incredibly manipulative from what I can from what I from what I think. Like when I began to like decompress the to like kind of pick apart a second book. I yeah, Henry definitely feels very manipulative and definitely not super duper. Um, not the best guy, if I'm being fully honest with you. Um, Bunny unfortunately died halfway through the book, so I can't exactly speak too much for him. But I will say he is definitely a character that feels interesting, and although messed up, I feel he's like the second most normal of them all. So, you know, it's great. Francis is cool. Yeah. I mean, like, not too much to say about him. He's cool, he's, a little eccentric, and, well, mostly, yeah, mostly just bad habits, that's about it. And then, finally, let's get to the main character, Richard. Well, actually, should I talk about, Professor? Professor, what's his face? I don't know. Wait, I actually know this. Professor Julian, right. Well, is he a professor? I'm not super sure. Anyway, Julian Morris, the teacher for the the Greek school. Well, not Greek school, for the Greek class, who also um, requests for all the students to isolate themselves from the rest of the college ecosystem. He basically gets them to remove all their classes that aren't with him, except except for a couple, and that's it. All the classes are taken with him, which I think is kind of weird. And towards the end, it definitely seems a little bit under like he definitely is uh you know put in sort of a bad light, which makes his previous actions seem obviously negative. So maybe it could be seen as manipulative. I mean, it's for different people to decide. I definitely think it's super weird at the very least. For some people, definitely manipulative. Um, so that's Julian. Is there any other important characters? Because yeah, no, I don't think so. We have the main six, and then Julian. It's like kind of important. Um, but yeah, I think the sad part is that he kind of just chickens out towards the end. Like at the end, he learns about Bunny stuff, just chickens out. That's it. Like that's it. That's the end of the story, which is such a shame because yeah, at the end of the day, he's a scared old man who doesn't want to go to prison, but also wants his students to to continue living their life. So yeah. And last lastly but not leastly, uh, yeah, my humor is not on point today for the record. Lastly but not leastly, um, is obviously the main character Richard. So I think he's definitely not the best dude out there. Very much a sheep, um, as he himself says it in the book. Because one thing that I is very interesting, but he kind of just goes along with the flow all the time. Which don't get me wrong, that's kind of understandable and something that I definitely would do. But he does it with no question, which is so strange. Like he just figures, hey, they killed someone. All right. I mean, the rest of the gang killed someone. Okay, guess I'll support them or something. And same thing with like them trying to kill Bunny. It's just like, no, they want to kill him. All right, I'll help them. Which is so, it's just so, it's just kind of disturbing in my opinion. Like the idea that someone would follow so easily along with something. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a part of the character to not like. I would say, however, also, let me just say, massive simp. Massive simp for Camilla, and I don't understand why. He barely knows her. Like, she's a friend from his study, like, from his class. Which, to be fair, like, yeah, I understand why he might think he's close to her. but they barely have any interaction. He's just kind of weird about it. So that's that. Yeah, which like I mean, from a genuine standpoint, I believe he interacts the least with Camilla, and yet he has like a massive crush on her or something like that. Which I mean, like on a personal like my personal views, that's weird. So yeah, so that's basically that. Um, I I hate the characters. Okay, I like the way that I like the way Donna Tartt, the author, wrote all the characters. I think it's super cool. She somehow managed to make every single one of these characters somewhat unlikable. Um, which I think is just so strange. But I think it's also very, very interesting because it's not it's not something you can do to make everyone, including the main character, kind of insidiously unlikable. They're not like cartoonish villains or anything. They're just really, really like subtly messed up, insidiously messed up. Um, yeah, like I think that's basically what I dislike most about every single character. Except for like Francis, in my opinion. I like Francis. He's cool. Like he's like the only one that's actually like borderline. But even then, he also has like this whole thing about wanting, um, wanting well, not exactly attention, but affirmation on a constant basis. He's afraid that he'll offend a person and like backtrack constantly if he feels like he's offended someone. You know, I guess it's a thing that happens, but I don't really like it. So, I'm looking at the Wikipedia article right now, and basically it's what they say it's an inverted detective story. So obviously, you know, like the main character, along with his friends, are the criminals. One thing I do realize I've not mentioned yet is exactly why the twins are somewhat messed up. I think on an individual basis, Camilla is messed up because she kind of manipulates Richard into like a surprising number of things. But yeah, she kind of subtly manipulative of Richard, taking advantage of his affection for her, and um yeah, and obviously Charles is definitely a bit weird. He's obviously abusive of her, of Camilla, which is terrible. And I think another thing about him is that he, I think it's actually like a Francis kind of thing where he has a lot of vices, and he does not make an effort to control them, which is really bad because it ends up obviously in him attacking the rest of the group in a drunken stupor. So yeah, that is basically it. I don't like any of I mean any of the main characters because they're insidiously um kind of messed up. And so I think one of the things I really like about this book is uh very strangely kind of just how everything managed to play out. I know the book starts off really slowly, but I think just it's the slowness of it that makes the part of the crescendo, the exciting the climax of the story is so much more interesting because the rest of the world has been so well developed. Um, I wish they had used the summer house a bit more, Francis Summer House, because it was a big part of, I believe, chapter one and two. I mean, chapter two and three, or maybe it was just chapter three. but it was such a huge part of like the earlier chapters. I wish it was used a little bit more, but yeah, I mean it is something. Um, yeah, it is a very strange um, kind of setup, I guess. But I think that the summer house is definitely more of focusing on the characters and the character interactions instead of like purely just like the actual setting. So since like the kind of locations are pretty fluid and flexible in general from the rest from from kind of like the set piece in that sense. The location moves from one place to another without like huge focus on any one of them. Obviously, if something is necessary for the plot for the story, it's used. But I think the location is um, mostly just used as a sort of tool rather than something that's like a important crux to the story. It's mostly just an additional tool. So I was just reading through the Wikipedia article and I was reminded that right, Bunny is actually surprisingly messed up. I would definitely point most of this towards the parents and his upbringing, simply because they definitely, despite being kind of rich, from a rich background, they gave him no money and actually wants him, and basically kind of taught him, some way or another, to take advantage of his rich friends. And sometimes, even if you're not rich, Bunny would try to take advantage of them, like Richard. So that's that. I would actually, now knowing this, I think probably put Bunny a little lower. So maybe all of them are messed up except for Francis. Um. Anyways, going back to going back to the book, I wanted to briefly cover the end of the story, um, which I think is so interesting. But pretty much, um, Francis is just unhappy now. He's just gonna be an unhappy person. He's in a marriage he doesn't want to be in, and the wife, um, from what the book says, is an absolute, kind of killjoy or whatever. Just not the fun, not conversation material, literally, because she kills every conversation she's in. And obviously, you know, I think um, Charles is actually surprisingly probably the one who's most happy at the end of the day, living his days with the love of his life. Theoretically, I guess. Who really knows? But I mean, on face value, honestly speaking, Charles has the happiest life. Camilla probably going to be. It's really sad for the rest of her life if I'm like, well, maybe she'll outgrow that, but yeah, she kind of doesn't get over the fact that she doesn't really get over Henry, which is really sad. But I can totally get that. Um, yeah, I mean, I think a very unfortunate end would be that she ends up just being single for the rest of her life because she's mourning, always mourning the death of Henry. But I mean, like I'm not sure. Would actually getting like forcing herself to get married be a better solution? Probably not. So that's that. I would say, wow. I guess that just leaves that. Yeah, that really just leaves main character, our main boy Richard. Uh, yeah. So man, that's crazy. we went from six people who probably like six people in the gang to four. That's all right. That's kind of yeah. I'm pretty bad at math in that sense. I will say actually you know what just for the sake of it, I think Julian is probably living the life if we're being honest. He's he's a person of high society. He could probably find a job as a tutor to some other super talented student, and you know, at the end of the day, he'll miss the gang, but it's all right. And lastly, our main boy Richard, I think, I think he will have a normal life, but then again, he seems like the kind of person who will just end up constantly unhappy with his life and with where he is. So it just seems like an unfor. It does like I think a lot of his you know lack of joy or whatever it is kind of comes from himself and himself only. So that is very unfortunate, but it is also surprisingly true. And well, yeah, I think the life of like a person like Richard is unfortunately just like a really sad person to be because it's just kind of he doesn't let himself be happy, which is so sad. And yeah, but some people are like that in real life. So who am I to judge, really? I think just yeah, I think Charles probably living the happiest life, followed by Richard, then Camilla, then Francis, all the way at the bottom because, good gosh, yeah. Yeah, Richard is never gonna get together with Camilla, by the way. If any of you have that, you know, head canonship or something like that, no, absolutely not. I don't think that was ever really in the cards. Well, that's my personal opinion, so I'll let that affect yours. Yeah, that's it. That is it. Um, for today's episode. Thank you all so much for listening. Please follow if you're listening on a podcast platform. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Yeah, and that is it. Thank you all so much for listening once again, and have a great week ahead of you. Peace out.